The front wheel fell off right there in the middle of the sidewalk. Just snapped clean off like it had been waiting for the worst possible moment to give up. And honestly, it couldn't have picked a better time if it was trying to make a point. Lisa sat there, staring at the wheel rolling away from her like it had somewhere better to be. The grocery bags were still hanging from the back of her chair, and she could feel the eggs probably cracking under the weight of the canned goods. Perfect. Just perfect. It had been one of those days. Actually, it had been one of those months. 3 weeks ago, her boss called her into the office and told her they were restructuring. That's what they called it when they decided they didn't need you anymore. 28 years old, and she was back to scrolling through job listings at midnight, wondering which ones would actually give her a chance and which ones would see the wheelchair in her interview, and suddenly remember they'd already filled the position. The insurance company sent their letter yesterday. Denied. They weren't going to cover a new wheelchair. Something about not meeting the criteria, about her current one being serviceable, even though serviceable apparently meant the thing could fall apart at any random Tuesday afternoon. She'd spent an hour on the phone with them explaining, pleading, getting transferred from person to person until she wanted to throw her phone across the room. And now this. The sky decided to join in on the fun. Fat drops of rain started falling, slowly at first, then faster. Lisa looked up at the gray clouds and laughed. Not a happy laugh. The kind of laugh that comes out when you've run out of other options. She tried pulling herself forward, but the chair wouldn't budge right. It lurched to one side, unstable and useless. A couple walked past, glanced at her, then looked away quickly. That's what people did. They saw the problem, decided it wasn't theirs, and kept moving. She was used to it by now. 2 years. It had been 2 years since the accident. 2 years since the truck ran the red light and turned her whole life sideways. 2 years since David looked at her in that hospital bed and promised everything would be okay. 3 months later, he was gone. Couldn't handle it, he said. Couldn't handle her. Couldn't handle the chair, the reality, the future that looked different than the one he'd imagined. The rain was coming down harder now. Lisa felt it soaking through her jacket, cold against her skin. She should call someone, but who? Her mom was 3 states away and she'd already been such a burden. Her friends from before had mostly drifted off, their texts getting less frequent until they stopped altogether. It's not that they were bad people. They just didn't know what to say anymore, didn't know how to include her in their lives when everything required stairs or walking or just being able to move through the world the way they did. She looked at her phone. The screen was getting wet. She should call a cab probably, or one of those accessible ride services if they weren't all booked up. But the thought of explaining this to another driver, of being lifted and helped and pitied, made her want to just sit here in the rain instead. Across the street, a man was locking up a shop. Auto repair from the looks of it. She watched him through the rain, fumbling with his keys, checking the lock twice. He turned around, and she quickly looked away. She didn't need another person staring, but then she heard footsteps. Fast ones coming toward her. "Hey!" The voice was warm, concerned but not pitying. "You okay?" Lisa looked up. The man from across the street was standing there, umbrella in one hand, a red toolbox in the other. He was maybe 40, with grease stains on his shirt and kind eyes that actually looked at her face, not at the chair. "I'm fine," she said automatically. "It's what you said. Always." He glanced at the wheel sitting 5 feet away, then back at her. One eyebrow went up. "That wheel says different." Despite everything, Lisa almost smiled. "Okay, maybe not completely fine. Mind if I take a look?" He was already moving, setting down his toolbox, holding the umbrella over both of them. "I'm Tom. I fix things. It's kind of what I do." "You don't have to." "I know." He was already examining where the wheel had detached, his fingers tracing the connection point. "But I'm already here, already got my tools, and honestly, I'd feel pretty terrible leaving someone stuck in the rain when I can probably help." Lisa wanted to argue. She was so tired of needing help, of being the person everyone had to stop their day for. But the rain was cold, and the chair wasn't going to fix itself, and something about the way this guy just started working without making a big deal about it made her stop fighting. Tom grabbed the wheel and brought it back. He knelt down in a puddle without even seeming to notice, turning the wheel over in his hands. Okay, so the axle mount sheared off. That's not just a loose bolt situation. You been hearing any clicking before this? Maybe? I don't know. It always makes noise. He nodded like that made perfect sense. They do that, especially the cheaper models, no offense. None taken. It came from insurance. Say no more. He was pulling tools out of his box now, measuring something, muttering to himself. My daughter has CP, cerebral palsy. She's 17 now, been in a chair since she was 9. I learned real quick that the people who make these things don't use them, and the people who fix them charge way too much for doing it wrong. Lisa watched him work. He wasn't asking her what happened, wasn't giving her those sad, sympathetic looks she'd gotten so used to. He was just fixing the chair, talking about it like it was a car or a bike or anything else that broke and needed attention. So you learned to fix them yourself? She asked. Had to. Good repairs cost a fortune. Bad repairs don't last, figured I'd learn to do it right. He was drilling now, creating a new mount point. Plus, it's not that different from cars, really. Metal, bolts, moving parts, just smaller and somehow more expensive. The rain kept falling, but Tom had angled the umbrella so she stayed mostly dry. He worked steadily, occasionally explaining what he was doing, sometimes going quiet to focus. 40 minutes passed. An hour. Lisa couldn't remember the last time. Someone just sat with her like this, treating her like a person instead of a problem. There, Tom said finally. He rolled the chair back and forth, testing the wheel. That should hold. I reinforced the mount and added a support bracket. It's actually probably stronger than it was originally. Lisa rolled forward carefully. The chair moved smooth, solid. No wobble. Thank you, really. How much do I... Tom waved her off. Nothing. But here. He pulled out a business card, flipped it over, and wrote something on the back. That's my cell. Chairs break. It's what they do. When yours does, call me. I'll fix it. I can't just... You can. And look, if it makes you feel better, maybe you can help hand me tools next time. I could use an assistant who actually knows what it's like to use these things. He smiled, genuine and easy. Deal? Lisa took the card. Her fingers were cold and wet, but she held onto it carefully. Deal. Tom packed up his tools and stood. You going to be okay getting home? Yeah. It's only a few blocks. All right. Stay dry. He started to walk away, then turned back. And hey, that wheel was going to break. Better it happen now than on a busy street or somewhere dangerous. Sometimes the bad timing is actually good timing in disguise. Lisa watched him jog back across the street to his shop. She looked down at the card in her hand, at the number written in neat, practical handwriting. She didn't know why, but something about this felt different. Not like pity, not like obligation. Just like one person helping another person. Simple as that. The rain was letting up. Lisa tucked the card carefully into her jacket pocket and started rolling toward home. The wheel Tom fixed moved perfectly, smooth and sure. She couldn't explain it, but for the first time in a long time, that tightness in her chest felt just a little bit lighter. 3 weeks went by before Lisa called the number on the card. 3 weeks of telling herself she was fine, that she could handle things on her own, that she didn't need to bother some stranger who'd already done enough. But then the brake cable snapped while she was going down a ramp, and she nearly rolled into traffic before catching herself on a fence. Her hands were shaking when she pulled out Tom's card that evening. She stared at the number for a good 10 minutes before finally dialing. It rang 3 times. Hello? Hi. This is Lisa. From the grocery store? You fixed my wheelchair in the rain a few weeks ago. Lisa, yeah, of course. How's the wheel holding up? The wheel's great. It's the brake cable now. It snapped today, and I nearly... She stopped. Why was she telling him this? Anyway, I know you said to call, but if you're busy, I'm not busy. Well, I am, but that's just life. Can you get to my shop? Or I can come to you if that's easier. 20 minutes later, Lisa was rolling into Tom's auto repair shop. It smelled like oil and metal and hard work. Tom was washing his hands at a big industrial sink, and he waved her over to a clear area near his workbench. Come on back. Let me finish this one engine mount and I'm all yours. Lisa watched him work on a car for a few minutes. His movements were confident, practiced. He talked to the engine like it was a person, muttering things like, "Come on, don't be difficult," and "There you go, that's better." When he finished, he wiped his hands and rolled a small stool over to where she sat. "All right, let's see what we've got." He examined the brake cable, tracing it from the handle to the wheel. "Yeah, this is frayed all the way through. How long has it been feeling loose?" "Maybe a week." "I thought it was just normal. That's the problem. People think chairs are supposed to make noise and feel loose. They're not. They should work as good as anything else." He was already pulling out a replacement cable from a drawer. "I keep some common parts on hand. Learned that lesson the hard way." As Tom worked, Lisa found herself relaxing. The shop was warm, and there was something comforting about watching someone who knew exactly what they were doing. No hesitation. No uncertainty, "So your daughter," Lisa said, then stopped. "Sorry, that's probably too personal." "No, it's fine. Her name's Rachel. She's 17, loves terrible reality TV shows and argues about everything just for fun. She's basically a lawyer in training." Tom smiled, the kind of smile that reaches all the way to your eyes. "The CP affects her legs mostly. She's been using a chair since she was 9 after we tried everything else. Surgery, physical therapy, all of it. That must have been hard." It was. Not for the reasons people think, though. The hard part wasn't the wheelchair. The hard part was watching other people treat her different. Teachers who stopped expecting things from her. Kids who suddenly didn't want to play. Adults who talked to me about her instead of talking to her directly. He tightened something, tested it. That's when I learned the wheelchair wasn't the disability. Other people's attitudes were. Lisa felt something catch in her throat. She'd never heard someone say it like that before. "Yeah, that's exactly it." Tom looked up at her. Really looked. "You get it. The stares, the pity, the way people suddenly think you're either helpless or inspiring just for existing. The inspiring thing is the worst," Lisa said, surprising herself. "Like I went to the bank last week and the teller told me I was brave for depositing a check at a bank." Tom laughed, a real laugh that made Lisa smile despite herself. "Rachel gets that all the time. She went to prom last year and the chaperones literally gave her a standing ovation for showing up. She was mortified. They talked while Tom worked. He told her about the time Rachel's chair broke at a concert, and they had to rig a temporary fix using a guitar string. She told him about her job search, about the interviews that went great until they saw the chair, about the companies that suddenly had budget concerns. "What kind of work do you do?" Tom asked. I did graphic design. Websites, logos, marketing materials. I was pretty good at it. Why past tense? Lisa shrugged. "Lost my job. Company downsized. And now nobody wants to hire me because," she gestured at the chair, "because they're idiots who don't know talent when they see it. Because offices have stairs. Because bathrooms aren't accessible. Because it's easier to hire someone who doesn't need accommodations." Tom was quiet for a moment, still working on the brake. "That's garbage. You know that, right? That's completely garbage. Knowing it doesn't pay rent. Fair point." He tested the brake cable, pulling it several times. "But for what it's worth, my website looks like it was designed in 1997 by someone who just discovered fonts. If you ever wanted to practice your skills on something truly terrible, I could use the help." Lisa smiled. "That bad?" "Worse, I did it myself using one of those template things. There's a spinning logo. It spins for no reason. Rachel won't even look at it, says it hurts her eyes. Spinning logos should be illegal." "Agreed. So should Comic Sans, but I definitely use that too." They both laughed, and it felt good. Natural. Not forced or awkward like conversations had become with her old friends. Tom finished the brake cable and rolled the chair back and forth, testing everything. "Okay, that's solid. But while you're here, let me check the rest. When's the last time someone did maintenance on this thing?" "Maintenance?" "Yeah, like checking all the bolts, making sure nothing's loose, seeing what might break next. Prevention instead of repair." "Never? I didn't know that was a thing." Tom shook his head. "Of course you didn't. They don't tell people this stuff. They just wait for things to break and charge you for emergency fixes." He was already examining the other wheel. "Give me another 20 minutes. I'm going to go through this whole chair and make sure everything's tight." Lisa watched him work. He was methodical, checking every bolt, every connection, every moving part. He explained what he was doing as he went, like he was teaching her instead of just fixing things. See this here? This bolt's a little loose. Won't cause a problem today, but in a month, this wheel could have wobbled right off. How much is this going to cost? Lisa asked quietly. She was already doing math in her head, trying to figure out if she could afford it. Tom looked up, confused. What? Nothing. I told you that. Yeah, but that was just for the wheel. This is a whole inspection, so? He went back to work. Look, I'm already here, the tools are already out, and honestly, I'd rather spend an hour now than get a call in 2 weeks because something broke. Call it selfish efficiency. That's not... Lisa. Tom stopped and looked at her directly. I'm not doing this because I feel sorry for you. I'm doing this because chairs shouldn't break, and people who need them shouldn't have to choose between fixing them and paying rent. And also because Rachel would absolutely yell at me if she found out I charged someone for basic maintenance. She has very strong opinions about disability rights and mutual aid and corporate price gouging. I get lectures. Many lectures. Lisa felt her eyes getting hot. She blinked fast. Okay, and thank you. Tom nodded and went back to work. They fell into comfortable silence, broken only by the sounds of tools and the occasional comment from Tom about what he was finding. A car pulled up outside. A moment later, a teenage girl rolled into the shop in a bright purple wheelchair covered in band stickers. She had headphones around her neck and was holding a bag from the Chinese place down the street. Dad, I got your... She stopped when she saw Lisa. Oh, hi, sorry. Didn't know you had someone here. Rachel, this is Lisa. Lisa, this is Rachel. She's brought food, which means she wants something. Rachel rolled her eyes. I brought you dinner because you texted me 3 hours ago that you were hungry and then forgot to eat. Again. She turned to Lisa. He does this. Gets focused on fixing things and forgets humans need food. Guilty, Tom admitted. Lisa's chair needed a brake cable. Rachel rolled over, examining Lisa's chair with an expert eye. Is that the 2020 model? With the terrible frame welds? Maybe. I'm not sure. It is. I can tell by the way the footrest attaches. These things are notorious for breaking. My friend had one and it literally fell apart after 18 months. She calls it the lemon. Rachel looked at her dad. Did you reinforce the stress points? I was just about to. Good, because otherwise she'll be back here in 3 months. Rachel turned back to Lisa. No offense, but your insurance company gave you garbage. These chairs look fine, but they're basically held together with hope and cheap welding. Lisa found herself laughing. None taken. I think my insurance company's goal is to spend as little as possible and hope I don't notice. That's exactly their goal, Rachel said. It's all about profit margins and quarterly reports. They don't care if the equipment actually works. She said it matter-of-factly, like she was discussing the weather instead of systemic problems with medical equipment. Tom handed Rachel some money from his wallet. Can you go grab food for Lisa, too? And yourself if you haven't eaten. Dad, you don't have to. Lisa started. Too late, Rachel's already going. Tom smiled. And trust me, you haven't lived until you've tried their dumplings. Best in the city. Rachel was already heading out. What do you want, Lisa? And don't say nothing because Dad will just order everything and we'll have leftovers for a week. Whatever you recommend. Perfect. I'm getting you the Dan noodles. They're life-changing. Rachel wheeled out, leaving Lisa and Tom alone again. Your daughter's amazing, Lisa said. She really is. Smarter than me, that's for sure. She wants to be a civil rights lawyer, specifically disability rights. She's already got her whole life planned out. I bet she'll be incredible at it. Tom smiled. Yeah, she will. He tightened one last bolt and sat back. Okay, you're all set. Everything's tight, nothing's about to break, and I replaced a couple of worn parts that would have been problems soon. Lisa tested the chair, rolling forward and back, trying the brakes. Everything felt solid, secure, better than it had in months, maybe years. Rachel came back with the food, and they ended up sitting in the shop eating together. Rachel told stories about school, about the accessibility problems in her building, about the teacher who kept trying to make her use the freight elevator for safety. Lisa found herself talking more than she had in months, laughing at Rachel's impressions, nodding along to her rants about bad design and worse attitudes. When it was time to leave, Tom walked her out to make sure the chair was rolling okay on the sidewalk. Same deal applies, he said. Anything breaks, you call, day or night. You can't just fix my chair forever for free. Watch me. He smiled. Besides, Rachel really liked you. She doesn't like most people. So now you're stuck with us. Lisa rolled home that night with a full stomach and something that felt dangerously close to hope. The card in her pocket didn't feel like charity anymore. It felt like friendship. Like connection. Like maybe, possibly, she wasn't as alone as she thought. The third time Lisa showed up at Tom's shop, nothing was actually broken. She told herself she was just checking in, making sure everything was still working right. But Tom saw right through it. Inspection visit? He asked with a knowing smile. Something like that. Rachel's in the back doing homework, or pretending to do homework while watching videos. Go distract her, I'll be there in a minute. Lisa found Rachel at a desk in the corner of the shop, laptop open, definitely not doing homework. She was watching a video about accessible design fails, making notes in a journal. This is for my debate class, Rachel explained without looking up. We're arguing about the Americans with Disabilities Act and whether it actually gets enforced. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. Need any help? Rachel's eyes lit up. Actually, yeah. Can I interview you? About your experiences with accessibility. It would really strengthen my argument. They spent the next hour talking. Rachel asked thoughtful questions, took detailed notes, and got genuinely angry about some of Lisa's stories. The bathroom at Lisa's old office building that was accessible, but required going through the loading dock. The restaurant with a ramp so steep it was basically a skateboard park. The apartment she couldn't rent because the landlord said the doorways were standard size, as if that made it okay. This is exactly what I'm talking about, Rachel said, her pen moving fast across the page. They follow the letter of the law but ignore the spirit. They put in a ramp and think they're done, but nobody actually checks if a real person can use it. Tom joined them, wiping oil off his hands. Rachel giving you the full interrogation? It's not an interrogation, it's research, Rachel protested. There's a difference. Uh-huh. Tom grabbed a soda from the mini fridge. Lisa, you want something? They fell into an easy routine after that. Lisa started coming by the shop once or twice a week. Sometimes her chair needed actual work. Sometimes she just helped Tom with small tasks, handing him tools, keeping him company while he worked on cars. Sometimes she just talked with Rachel, who had approximately 1 million opinions about everything and wasn't shy about sharing them. One evening, about 2 months after that first repair, Tom was working on a car when his phone rang. He listened for a minute, his expression changing. That's the third one this week, he said after hanging up. Guy needs his wheelchair fixed, can't afford the medical supply place prices. Found my number from someone I helped last month. You gave him your number? Lisa asked. Yeah, I've been doing that, helping people when their chairs break, words getting around. He looked thoughtful. There's like 10 places in this city that fix cars for every block, but try finding someone who'll fix a wheelchair without charging you $300. It's ridiculous. Rachel looked up from her laptop. You should start a business. I have a business. This business, no, I mean a real business. For mobility equipment, repairs, maintenance, actually helping people instead of ripping them off. Tom laughed, but not like it was funny. More like it was impossible. That's a nice idea, kiddo, but I don't know anything about running that kind of operation. I can fix things, sure, but business plans and marketing and all that? Not my skill set. What about Lisa? They both turned to look at her. Lisa felt her face get hot. What about me? You did graphic design, right? That's like marketing and websites and business stuff, and you know what people actually need because you use the equipment. Rachel was getting excited now, the way she did when she had an idea. Dad knows how to fix things, you know how to run the business side. It's perfect. Rachel, Tom started. Think about it, Rachel interrupted. How many people are out there right now with broken chairs, broken walkers, broken equipment they can't afford to fix? How many people are stuck at home because the thing they need to move around doesn't work, and the repair shops charge more than they have? Lisa felt something stirring in her chest. Something she hadn't felt in a long time. She's not wrong. Tom looked at her surprised. You're actually considering this? Maybe, I don't know. I've been job hunting for months and getting nowhere. And I keep thinking about what you said about how there's nowhere for people to go when things break. Lisa's mind was already working, seeing possibilities. What if there was a place? A real place with fair prices and people who actually understand what they're fixing? It would cost money to start up. A lot of money. Small business loans exist. Grants for disability services exist. I could write proposals, build a website, handle the business registration. Lisa was warming to the idea. You said your website is terrible. I could fix that. Create a whole online presence, social media, everything. Rachel was grinning. See, I told you. Perfect team. Tom sat down on his workbench thinking. You really think people would come? That there's enough need? You said yourself you've gotten 3 calls this week. And that's just from word of mouth from people who happened to hear about you. Imagine if there was an actual business advertised easy to find. Lisa pulled out her phone searching. Look at this. The nearest mobility repair place charges $200 just for a consultation. $200 before they even touch your equipment. That's highway robbery. Exactly. So what if we charged fair prices? What if we actually made this accessible in every sense of the word? They talked for hours that night. Rachel eventually went home, but not before making Lisa promise to seriously consider the idea. Tom and Lisa stayed, throwing out thoughts, working through problems, getting excited and then cautious and then excited again. I don't want to get your hopes up, Tom said eventually. This could fail. Most small businesses do. Most small businesses don't fill a need this big, Lisa countered. And yeah, it could fail. But what if it doesn't? What if it actually works? The question hung in the air between them. Lisa went home that night and couldn't sleep. She opened her laptop and started designing. A logo, a website mock-up, a business plan outline. The work poured out of her like it had been waiting, like she'd just needed the right reason to let it loose. By morning, she had a full presentation ready. She called Tom before she could lose her nerve. I stayed up all night, she said when he answered. I have something to show you. Can I come by? When she got to the shop, Tom was already there, looking like he hadn't slept much either. I was doing some math, he said. Looking at costs, what we'd need to start small. It's not as impossible as I thought. Lisa opened her laptop and showed him what she'd created. The website was clean, professional, welcoming. The logo incorporated a wrench and a wheelchair wheel in a way that was clever but not cheesy. The business plan broke down costs, projected income, community need, everything. Tom stared at the screen. You did all this last night? I told you I was good at this. You weren't kidding. He scrolled through the pages, reading. This is really good, Lisa, like really professional. So? Lisa's heart was pounding. Are we doing this? Are we actually doing this? Tom was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. Yeah, I think we are. But on one condition. What's that? You have to be a full partner. 50-50, not just an employee or a consultant. This is your business too. Lisa felt tears prick her eyes. You don't have to. I do, though. This idea only works if we're both all in. You bring as much to this as I do. Maybe more. So we do it together or we don't do it at all. She thought about everything that had led to this moment. The accident. The job loss. The broken wheelchair in the rain. The loneliness and frustration and feeling like she didn't matter anymore. And somehow, impossibly, all of that had led here. To this shop with this person building something that could actually matter. Okay, she said. Partners. They shook hands and Lisa felt something click into place. Not just a business deal. A purpose. A direction. A reason to get up in the morning that had nothing to do with just surviving and everything to do with actually living. The next few weeks were chaos. Good chaos. Lisa worked on getting them registered as an LLC, filing paperwork, applying for small business loans and disability service grants. Tom started sourcing parts, setting up the repair area, creating systems for tracking what they worked on. Rachel became their unofficial advisor, pointing out things they hadn't considered, reminding them to make everything accessible not just in theory but in practice. Your waiting area needs good seating, she told them. Chairs with arms for people who need help standing. Space for wheelchairs that isn't just shoved in a corner. Good lighting for people with vision issues. And for the love of everything, please don't make the bathroom hard to find. They listened. They learned. They adjusted their plans based on actual input from actual people who would actually use their services. Lisa built the website. She created social media accounts. She designed flyers and business cards. She wrote copy that spoke directly to people who were tired of being overcharged and underserved, who just wanted their equipment to work without taking out a loan. Tom perfected his repair techniques. He took online courses about different types of mobility equipment, He connected with manufacturers to get service manuals and parts catalogs. He turned half his auto shop into a dedicated mobility repair area with all the right tools and equipment. 3 months after that conversation in the shop, they were ready to open. Lisa designed an announcement that Rachel helped her post in every disability group and community board online. Simple, direct, honest. Opening next week, affordable mobility equipment repair. Fair prices, experience service, accessibility guaranteed. Come as you are. We'll fix what's broken. The response was immediate. Emails, phone calls, messages. People who had been putting off repairs because they couldn't afford them. People whose equipment was being held together with duct tape and prayer. People who had been told their wheelchairs weren't worth fixing, and they should just buy new ones. The night before they opened, Lisa and Tom stood in the shop looking at everything they'd built. The clean work area, the comfortable waiting space, the sign Rachel had helped them hang outside. Community Mobility Solutions. We're really doing this, Tom said. We really are. Lisa felt nervous and excited and terrified and hopeful all at once. What if nobody comes? Then we'll figure it out. But I don't think that's going to be the problem. Tom looked at her. You ready? Lisa thought about the woman she'd been 6 months ago, sitting in the rain with a broken wheelchair, feeling like her life was over, like she had nothing left to offer the world. She thought about how wrong she'd been. Yeah, she said. I'm ready. The first customer showed up 20 minutes before they officially opened. An older woman named Betty with a walker that wobbled every time she took a step. She looked embarrassed walking in early. I'm sorry, I know you're not open yet. I can come back. No, please come in, Lisa said, rolling forward. We're ready. What's going on with your walker? Betty's walker had a loose joint that nobody else would fix without replacing the whole frame. They wanted $600. Tom had it fixed in 15 minutes for $30. Betty cried. Actual tears. I've been scared to go anywhere, she said. Thought I was going to fall. But I couldn't afford what they wanted. That was the first customer. By noon, there were 8 more. By the end of the week, they had a waiting list. By the end of the month, Tom was working 12-hour days and they still couldn't keep up. We need help, Tom said one night, exhausted but smiling. Good problem to have, but we need another repair person. They hired Kevin, a military veteran who'd learned equipment repair overseas and couldn't find decent work back home. He was patient, methodical, and understood what it meant when equipment wasn't just equipment, but the difference between independence and being stuck. Lisa handled the business side from a desk she'd set up in the corner. She did intake, managed the schedule, handled billing, ran the social media, and kept the website updated. She created a blog where she shared resources, tips for basic maintenance, information about rights and accessibility laws. The blog took off. People shared it. Disability advocates linked to it. Suddenly, they weren't just a local repair shop. They were becoming a resource hub. Rachel started volunteering after school, helping with social media and talking to younger customers. She had a way of making people feel comfortable, especially teenagers who were still figuring out how to navigate the world with their equipment. Your generation gets it, one kid told Rachel. You don't make it weird. Why would I make it weird? Rachel asked. A wheelchair's just a chair with wheels. It's not a tragedy, it's transportation. 6 months in, they were featured in the local news. Small piece, just 3 minutes, but it brought a flood of new customers. Some of them came from 40 miles away. There's nobody doing this anywhere else, one man said. He'd driven 2 hours. Everywhere else treats you like you're asking for charity when you question their prices. Here, you just tell me what's wrong and what it costs to fix. That's it. That's all I wanted. Lisa started getting emails from people in other cities asking if they'd consider opening locations elsewhere. She put together information packets, basically a guide for how to start a similar business. She sent them out for free. You're giving away our business model, Tom joked. Good. More places should exist. We can't help everyone, but maybe someone else can use this to help people where they are. Some of those packets turned into actual businesses. A repair shop opened in another state using their pricing structure. Then another. Lisa connected them, creating an informal network of affordable repair places that shared resources and information. Tom started teaching workshops at the local community center about basic equipment maintenance. How to check bolts, when to worry about weird sounds, what you could fix yourself and what needed professional help. People should know this stuff, he said. Equipment breaks less when it's maintained, and people shouldn't have to pay someone just to be told to tighten a bolt. Lisa started a YouTube channel. Simple videos about advocating for yourself, understanding your rights, what to look for in equipment. Rachel helped film and edit. The videos were clear, practical, and from the perspective of someone who actually used the equipment. Comments poured in. Thank you messages. Stories from people who'd used the information to push back against unfair pricing or inaccessible design. Stories from people who'd found repair places in their own cities by using the techniques Lisa talked about for searching and vetting services. One video about insurance denials went semi-viral, 50,000 views. 100,000? News outlets picked it up. Lisa got interview requests. She said yes to a podcast about disability rights, then a magazine article, then a panel discussion about accessibility in business design. Each time she talked about the shop, about Tom, about what they were building, but mostly about why it mattered that people with disabilities weren't forced to choose between mobility and rent money. The business kept growing. They moved to a bigger space, hired 2 more repair techs, added a small retail section with basic supplies and parts people could buy to do their own repairs. Lisa hired 2 part-time employees to help with admin work, both people with disabilities who'd been struggling to find employment. One managed inventory from home. The other handled customer follow-ups and scheduling. We're not a charity, Lisa told them both. You're here because you're good at your jobs, period. But privately with Tom, she admitted it felt good to offer opportunities she'd been denied herself, to prove that accessible employment wasn't a favor but good business. A year after opening, they got their first grant. A foundation that supported disability-focused businesses gave them $50,000 to expand their outreach program. Lisa used it to create a mobile repair unit, a van that could go to people who couldn't easily get to the shop. Tom drove it himself on weekends, Rachel often riding along. They went to nursing homes, assisted living facilities, people's houses, fixed equipment on site, charged the same fair prices, made it so nobody had to figure out transportation just to get their walker fixed. The local disability rights organization gave them an award, Community Impact Award. Lisa had to give a speech. She'd never given a speech in her life. She stood at the podium, notes shaking in her hands, and looked out at the room full of people. Some in wheelchairs, some with walkers, some with canes or other equipment, all of them understanding in their own way what this work meant. A year and a half ago, Lisa said, my wheelchair broke in the rain. I thought it was the worst day, thought I was stuck, thought I had nothing, thought the world had no place for me. And then someone stopped. Someone fixed my chair. But more than that, someone saw possibilities I'd stopped seeing in myself. She talked about Tom, about Rachel, about the customers who'd become friends, the people who'd trusted them with their repairs and their stories, the community that had formed around this simple idea that people deserved equipment that worked and prices they could afford. We didn't invent anything revolutionary, she said. We just decided that fairness mattered more than profit margins, that people mattered more than policies, that everybody deserves to move through the world with dignity and equipment that doesn't break down every other week. The room erupted in applause. Lisa saw Tom in the back grinning. Rachel was filming on her phone, probably for the YouTube channel. Kevin and the other employees were clapping. Betty, their first customer, was dabbing her eyes with a tissue. After the ceremony, person after person came up to Lisa, thanking her, telling her their stories, how the shop had helped them, how the blog had given them information to fight an insurance denial, how the videos had helped them find services in their own cities. An older man in a wheelchair rolled up, waiting until the crowd thinned. I just wanted to say thank you. Not for me, though you fixed my chair last month and did great work. But my grandson has muscular dystrophy. He's 8. He asked me last week if he was broken because his wheelchair keeps breaking and his mom cries about the repair bills. Lisa felt her chest tighten. I brought him to your shop. The man continued. You weren't there, but Tom was. Tom showed him how the chair worked, explained that equipment breaks because it gets used, that it's not his fault, that breaking and needing repair is just normal. My grandson left understanding that he wasn't broken. His chair was just being a chair. That's a gift. That's bigger than you probably realize. Lisa had to excuse herself, found a quiet hallway and let herself cry. Good tears this time. The kind that came from knowing you'd done something that mattered. Tom found her a few minutes later. You okay? Yeah, really okay, actually. She wiped her eyes. Did you hear what that grandfather said? I did, about his grandson. We did that. We helped that kid understand he's not broken. Tom sat down on the floor next to her wheelchair. You know what's wild? When I met you, when I fixed your chair that day in the rain, I just thought I was fixing a wheel. I had no idea we'd end up here. Building a business, building a community. Tom corrected. The business is great, don't get me wrong. But this? He gestured back toward the ceremony room. All these people connected, helping each other, sharing resources, refusing to accept that unfair pricing and poor service are just how it is. This is bigger than a business, Lisa thought about that. He was right. Somewhere along the way, they'd created something that extended beyond repairs and maintenance. They'd created a space where people mattered, where dignity was default, where asking for help wasn't weakness but community. Her phone buzzed. Email notification. She glanced at it, then showed Tom. Someone in Chicago wants to open a shop using our model. They're asking for advice. You going to help them? Of course. Lisa smiled. The more places like ours exist, the fewer people end up stuck in the rain with broken equipment and no options. They sat there for a moment, the sounds of the ceremony continuing in the other room. Rachel would probably come looking for them soon. There were people to thank, hands to shake, photos to take, but for now it was just the two of them. The mechanic and the designer. The two people who'd met by accident and built something on purpose, something that mattered. Thank you, Lisa said quietly. For what? For stopping. For fixing my chair. For seeing me as a person instead of a problem. Tom smiled. Thank you for believing this crazy idea could work. For making it work. For being exactly who you are. They headed back to the ceremony together. There was still work to do, always more work to do. But for the first time in longer than Lisa could remember, work felt like purpose instead of obligation. Felt like building instead of surviving. Felt like she'd finally found the place she was meant to be. Doing the thing she was meant to do, not despite the wheelchair. Not because of the wheelchair. Just her. Living her life, making a difference. Refusing to accept that broken things couldn't be fixed or that broken people couldn't be whole. She rolled back into the ceremony room with her head high, ready for whatever came next. 2 years after that rainy day outside the grocery store, Lisa stood in front of the new location they'd just opened across town. Bigger space. More equipment. Room for 6 repair stations instead of 3. They'd gone from Tom working alone in his auto shop to a full team of 8 people. All of them passionate about the work. All of them understanding in some personal way why it mattered. The sign above the door was bigger too, but the name stayed the same. Community Mobility Solutions. Rachel had designed the new logo, incorporating feedback from a dozen people in their customer community. It was perfect. You ready for the grand opening? Tom asked, walking up beside her. He looked tired but happy, the way he always did these days. Good tired? Purpose tired, I think so. The mayor's coming, apparently, and that news crew that did the story about us last year wants to do a follow-up. Never thought I'd see the day when I'd have to worry about talking to news crews. Tom laughed. Remember when it was just me, a toolbox, and a lot of hope? And a woman with a broken wheelchair who thought her life was over. Hey, you never told me you thought that, Lisa smiled. I didn't have to. You could probably see it written all over my face. I wasn't exactly hiding it well. The parking lot was filling up. They'd invited everyone. Current customers, past customers, people from the disability rights organizations they'd partnered with, local business owners, the physical therapy center down the street that regularly referred people their way, even some of the repair techs from the medical supply companies, the ones who'd privately told them they wished their own employers would adopt fair pricing. Rachel showed up with a group of her friends from college. She was studying pre-law now, still determined to become a disability rights attorney. She'd already done an internship with a legal aid organization, helping people fight insurance denials. Her reputation was growing, this fierce advocate who refused to accept bureaucratic nonsense as an answer. Dad, Lisa, you guys need to come see what people are posting online. Rachel held up her phone. The hashtag is trending locally. People are sharing their stories about the shop, about how it helped them, about what it means to have a place that actually cares. Lisa scrolled through the posts on Rachel's phone. Photo after photo, stories after stories. A man who'd been able to return to work after they fixed his mobility scooter for a price he could afford. A mother whose son's wheelchair they'd repaired 3 times, always fairly priced, always treated with respect. A woman who'd driven from 2 states away because she'd heard about them and couldn't find anyone honest in her own city. These are real people's lives we've affected, Lisa said quietly. That's why we do it. Tom replied. The ceremony started at 11. The mayor spoke, talking about community innovation and local business success. A representative from the disability rights organization talked about advocacy and action. Then it was Lisa's turn. She rolled up to the microphone, the same nervous energy she'd felt at the award ceremony, but more confident now. She'd learned something over the past 2 years. Her voice mattered. Her perspective mattered. She didn't need to apologize for taking up space or asking for fairness or demanding better. 2 years ago, Lisa began, I was sitting on a sidewalk in the rain with a broken wheelchair and I felt invisible. Like the world had moved on without me. Like I didn't matter anymore, like being disabled meant being disposable. She saw people nodding. They knew that feeling, that invisible weight, and then Tom stopped. He didn't know me, had no reason to care, but he fixed my chair anyway, and in fixing that wheel he reminded me that I wasn't broken. My equipment was broken. There's a difference. A huge difference that somehow gets lost in a world that treats disability like a personal failing, instead of just part of human diversity. Lisa talked about the business, about the team they'd built, about the thousands of repairs they'd completed, but mostly she talked about what it meant. About dignity and fairness and refusing to accept that people with disabilities should have to pay premium prices for basic functionality. We didn't start this business to get rich, she said. We started it because nobody should have to choose between fixing their wheelchair and paying rent. Because equipment that breaks shouldn't cost more to repair than to replace. Because every person deserves to move through the world without their mobility being a luxury item. The applause was loud, genuine. Lisa saw Tom wiping his eyes, not even trying to hide it. Rachel was filming as always, probably already planning how to edit this for the YouTube channel. After the speeches, they opened the doors. People flooded in, touring the space, meeting the repair team, seeing how they designed everything to be actually accessible, not just technically compliant. Wide aisles, adjustable height workstations, clear signage, comfortable seating in multiple styles, a quiet room for people who got overwhelmed easily. An elderly man approached Lisa, moving slowly with a cane. You probably don't remember me, he said. Lisa looked at him more closely. Something familiar. I'm sorry, I meet a lot of people. You fixed my wheelchair. 2 years ago. First customer you ever had. Walker with a wobbly leg. Betty's husband? Lisa's face lit up. You brought her in the first day we opened. That's right. Betty passed away 6 months ago, peaceful, at home. She got 2 more years of being independent, of going where she wanted, doing what she loved. Your repair gave her that. That $30 fix gave my wife 2 years of dignity. His voice cracked. I wanted you to know that. Wanted you to know it mattered. Lisa couldn't speak. Just reached out and squeezed his hand. He squeezed back, nodded, and moved on. She sat there for a moment, letting that sink in. $30. 2 years of independence. How many repairs had they done like that? How many lives had they touched in these small, crucial ways? The day continued. Tours, demonstrations. Kevin showing people how to do basic maintenance. Tom explaining their pricing structure to other business owners, who seemed genuinely interested in replicating the model. Rachel networking with local advocacy groups, already planning partnerships and outreach programs. As the crowd thinned in the late afternoon, a young woman rolled in. Early 20s, maybe. In a wheelchair that had clearly seen better days. She looked around nervously like she wasn't sure she should be there. Lisa rolled over. Hi, I'm Lisa. Can we help you with something? I don't know. Maybe. My chair's making this clicking sound and the brake feels loose. But I called the place my insurance covers and they said it would be $300 just to look at it. And I don't have that, so I thought maybe... She trailed off, looking embarrassed. You came to the right place. Lisa gestured to Tom, who came over immediately. This is Tom. He's going to take a look, figure out what's going on, and we'll give you an honest price before we do any work. No surprises. No hidden fees. Just fair service. The young woman looked relieved, almost tearful. Really? Really.